tell you, you can tell him now, I'll be watching it, we're still fighting for this title, and he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
Sambuca. Cheers, brother.
How big was that, Mum? So you made me, that wasn't a shot.
The double shot. It's not like a single shot.
Fucking hell, mate.
It's like a shot and a half. Like the deep is out them shot glasses. Because it's not short. It's a short.
Aye.
It's not a shot. It's a short.
Doing us over. So, hi everyone. We're just doing our obligatory Sambuca sours. We've done it for how many years now? We've always done it now. Every night out we have Sambuca sours. Before we started, we thought the way to go with the podcast would be to start the first episode.
I think it was a cricket club the first time, wasn't it? Like,
was it when we were running the cricket club footy team?
Aye. And we just, because we didn't like the sours, but we, like me and you, were a preferer of tequila anyway.
Aye.
We love our tequila, and because everyone else preferred sours, we had to get Sambuca.
We get the sours to make it taste better.
Right?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, episode 001, mate. Here we go. Fucking happy.
Aye.
It's been a long time coming. It has been a long time coming, but
it has.
The
thing is, though, me and you are the type of people who quite lackadaisy, and we'll say that we're going to do things like me and you. It's mad how similar we are as people.
Oh yeah,
because we're late for everything.
Yeah, we'll both be late for our own funeral easily.
Aye, easily.
So I think for the first episode, it'd be a good kind of idea to kind of go back to basically where mine and your journey started.
Right.
In all of this. We've known each other, what now? Well, I said it the other day, didn't I? Next September 2022 will be 20 years friendship for the whole group. But me and you have known each other about 3 or 4 years more than that as well. So it's been 20 years for a while now. It's 20
well,
years
I think
now.
it was when... What was the first... Obviously, your dad was my first ever football manager. And that was...
Did you not play under Brian Connor?
Nah.
No. So that was my first season. So that was under 7. So it must have been under 8 and 9s. Yeah.
So when it's probably even... Well, what time...
So we'll have been 8-year-old. We'll have been 7 or 8-year-old. So what's that now? 24 years? 24? Fucking hell.
24 years of friendship. That's crazy, that. Because if you look at other friendship groups...
I mean, my sister's 24.
Well, there you go.
23. Hopefully I didn't get it
Oh,
wrong.
Kieran's 24.
Yeah, exactly. Bloody hell. You're Kieran's
24 today.
Yeah.
Happy birthday,
Kieran, son. 24 years. And then, I mean, we played football together, but we weren't like best mates or anything like that. Where we just played football together.
Yeah.
And we kind of went on tournaments together, Blackpool and all that. And then you moved. Where did you go? You went to a different football team anyway. Obviously, we went to different schools originally anyway.
Yeah.
And then linked back up. Yeah, 7
Yeah,
old,
7.
11-year-old.
Aye.
Linked back up when about 11-year-old, and then it was when the journey started with our life, basically through secondary school, which was a crazy ride.
The maddest ride.
There might be people listening who have a different kind of view of secondary school. Because we at secondary school, we might not have always been the nicest people. I always like to believe we've got we had good hearts, but we were maybe not always nice. Do you know what I mean? That kind of deal.
Because we wanted to be the boys.
Yeah, that's it, and that's the problem with secondary school. Because you're always like you always try to be cool. You maybe do things you don't want, just to try and fit.
I don't ever think we were like bad people. Like we weren't proper arseholes. I think we were just, in terms of like common teachers and stuff like that, we were just very cheeky to the teachers and that, and we didn't like to be told what to do. So it was always a case of like, oh, who's this teacher taught now? Yeah. And where we would like just be getting sent out of lessons,
just trying to be annoying students.
And when you think about it, like we could have ended up so much worse. Like there's people around us who were friends with us, and they went down a total different path and like ended up.
Sorry, Shadow just nearly knocked the whole ensemble over there. Cheers, his ball. He's all right.
Hold on, I'll put that up here.
Yeah,
to get that out of it.
Those of you that don't know, We're from the northeast of England, County Durham, a little town called Peterlee or Horden is where we knocked about most of our lives. So it's small, very much a very deprived town, a lot of poverty. Since obviously the pit's closed now, but we'll get into that in another episode probably. We're not going to talk about that today. So senior school. This is something mad about secondary school, right? That people don't, especially when I'm at work and stuff, because obviously I working with people from different areas. They don't believe us when I tell them how young we started, like our introduction to like alcohol and drink alcohol and drugs basically. Not saying that we all took drugs, but like our introduction or our kind of first view of that, was at probably year 7. Year 7?
Yeah.
So you're talking what? 10, 11? 11 I think we were in year 7.
Is it?
Coming up 12.
Yeah.
And we were drinking in year 7, basically, in year 8. So I tell you now, this is not bragging at all. And I see it every time I tell someone. But it's just the fact that they're like, what? Like, you were drinking and we were like around girls and stuff and that kind of thing at that such a young age.
I think as well a lot of the influence that had to do with that is because like when I even going back as far as when I was in year 4 in the juniors, and I started knocking about with Righty's older brother, like Shane.
So how old have they been
Kylie.
then? So they'll have been about 12 then.
Yeah.
But
So,
year 7, 8. So that.
and I was knocking about with them smoking, and like thinking I was the man, and like.
Well, that's the problem, innit? Because I don't think we've ever knocked about with or ever hung around with anyone that has been younger than us. Up until now that we're the oldies. But we were always hanging around with that kind of group that were older than us. So it always kind of pushes you to do what they're doing a couple of years above kind of thing. And because obviously me working away, you don't see this perspective of people who grew up in like totally nice areas, where that didn't happen. And I'm not saying either of us had a hugely bad upbringing. We'll get into that kind of thing in a bit, but product of your environment is the right thing. The whole environment, like drugs in this area is obviously everybody knows who's from this area. If you don't, it's like any deprived, no job area in the country really, because it's not just us. It's not just us. It's all over the country. It's like a mess. But
the northeast, I think we get the worst of it though.
Well, that's been the case throughout history, hasn't it? We always say we get forgotten about by Southerners who will say the opposite, who they're forgotten about as well. That's fair. I think it's more the working class get forgotten about a little bit, or the working class towns. Once they're gone, there's no rescuing them. Just let them die.
Especially the pit when the pit's gone as well. Like obviously this was a pit village.
It's all we had, wasn't it? It was our identity.
If you think about it, like look at the amount of pubs that we had, and it was most of them were all to cater the pit village. Like the people who worked down the pit, finished work, and they went for a pint. And now we've got like maybe it's a handful of pubs now that's operating compared to years back when it would be like. I can think even as far as 10 years ago, there was like 12 operating pubs in such a small village. And that's all
I think it was more than that, you know.
Was it?
15, 16 pubs. I mean...
If you include Pete Lee in that as well.
Oh, if you include Pete Lee, you're talking in the 20s then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of that area that kind of encourages finding alternative ways of entertainment. We're not playing hopscotch in the street at 12 years old or riding about on our scooters. I mean... what we're talking 12, 13, all the people I'm talking, and hopefully at one point we'll get anybody who from the rave scene on as a guest, because I'd love to get somebody from the rave scene on, because that was a huge part of our life, the new monkey, for anybody that doesn't know, and it's quite a northeast based thing, but I think it's spread out a little bit further than the northeast, the new monkey, just
especially
a little bit.
I think with Pickford.
Pickford loves it, doesn't he?
Getting that little feeler out
there.
Well,
people at work were like, what does he mean when he says get the rave on? And I'm like, yeah, I'll show you. And I get it on my phone, they're like, what is that? He's like, you've got to be on East to listen to that. I was like, well, everybody was. That's the thing. Everybody who listened to it was on.
Because it's, didn't Tazo do, like, when, not for the Euros, but the World Cup, I'm sure Tazo did like
he did a rhyme.
Was he on
for
BBC?
It was all over
something...
Facebook. But it was kind of cheesy, Tazo, I'm not going to lie. But, But yeah, much love. But yeah, so I'd love to get someone to show that rave scene, because when the rave scene started as well, that was once I got into, I was obsessed, obviously, MCing and stuff, and our friend DJing. It seemed like everybody at that point was either MCing or DJing or just being involved in drinking around that sort of culture, getting a rave on.
And it was mint though, like when you think about some of the times that we've had just sat around, especially going down races with these decks.
Yeah, in his garage. His garage just drink. It was just like some of the best nights of my life. Do you know? Or we'd go down like a pipe where we live called the Cundy, with a stereo, just with a tape deck, because all we bought was tapes back then from what was it, spinning discs. Travel through on the bus, get the latest tape from the Saturday night's recording on the Sunday. Next Friday we'd be on the drink down the Cundy with it blasting on the stereo, and we just stood. There was about 30, 40 people there with one stereo in the corner, everybody drinking, everybody chatting, and there was never any trouble either. Do you know what I mean? Like there was always just chat,
and it was always a mix of age groups as well. It was mad. And then people would come down, you're like, hey, all right, mate, like, and it was just it was a
I always wonder if we got a false like look at that, because we were always youngest, we were like, and we were all like dead young compared to the rest. The older lads maybe did have trouble, and we always just seen as like we were never involved in it, because they would never hit, like there would never anything happen to us because we were babies to them, so it would just be embarrassing to ever do anything. So we just kind of like minced around in the background while all them were maybe doing what they were doing.
To be fair, even you've got to think as well, so like there's obviously the village that we lived in, especially years ago, obviously we from Horden, and the village next to us was Blackhall. And I can always remember there was like I
totally forgot about that.
Non-stop, constant feud of like Horden versus Blackhall. We hated each other.
Used to be on MSN back the day, didn't it? Like we're going to meet on the bank, basically.
And mate, I can always remember who was in mine, and we were in mine on the loft, and I think it was like Righty and Ellie or someone, and we were looking over because there was going to be like a massive ruckus on the bank. Aye.
So basically, there's a bank that separates these two towns, and each town is at the top, or each village is at the top of these banks, and it goes down into like a valley. And we always used to see we'll march down into the valley, like on this main road, and have it out at the bottom. And there used to be hundreds on each side. Like all the lads, fucking tougher lads, lasses there ready to fight the other lasses. It's nuts, really, when you think about it. Lasses ready to fight the other lasses. We'd have like planks of wood with nails sticking out, and it always seemed to kind of, it was a little bit of friction, and now it really happened. And then you grow up a little bit, and you're like, you're friends with all of them. You're like, what on earth?
Like now you go and drink over there.
But rave kind of did that, because we used to go. So when I think the first New Monkey I went to, it was a nappy night, or under 18s night, and I remember 30 of us went from Horden, right? 30 of us. The Arriva buses were driving past us at the bus stop because it was just too. They were like, not letting them on, like. So we went 10, 10, 10 across 3 bus stops. And I was in the final 10. They stuck all the young ones in the final 10, because if we didn't get on, it was like, I didn't care. All the old ones are going. So we were in the final 10. Anyway, pulled up, and he opened the doors. He went, "Yous are all together, aren't you?" And we all piled on like, "Wee!" like that. Anyway, went through, and this was, I think my parents probably knew about this one, because this was a nappy night, so I finished at 12, I think. There was other ones that the maybe didn't know about. We'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, we went through, and I remember I'll not mention names when I haven't spoken to them about it, but it's basically just handed it was like half an E. Says take that. I was like, what's that? And I knew what pills were, right? E's, and I was like, what will it do? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, popped it back, and he's like, I'll look after you all night. He must be about 5 years older than me. I'd have been about 14 at the time, 13, 14. He's like, I'll look after you. Oh, tell you what, that is easily the best night of my life, right? But so when we got there, I always remember it was, you stood in your town. So there was a huge club, the New Monkey on Pallion in Sunderland, and it was massive. And you could just look round and you'd see, they're from Wallsend, that's the Sunderland lads, there's all the village lads. And to be honest, when it came to that, we always hung around with the Blackhall lads, because it was at least we've got something against, because the Sunderland lads come from Sunderland town, which was a lot bigger.
There's a lot more of them.
Townies was back in the day, a load of townies. And I always remember I had a brand new TN cap on, what my mum had got us, I think it was for Christmas or something. brand new TN cap on. Loved it. Everybody loved them, but it was like the cream of the crop TN.
Yeah.
Proper cream of the crop. And it just got snatched off my head while I was dancing. So it was this little kid. He must have been about 9-year-old, right, in this rave. Chased after him, ran round, and I just stopped. And there's this, he turned around. He said, "What?" And he had just his top was just full of caps, like hats, because everybody had like Burberry and stuff on. Like back in the day, he just had his top filled with caps. He could sell them, make a fortune. And I said, "You make caps up your top?" He went, "It's fucking not like." And I was like, "But it is though. It's up your top. I've just seen you put it up. I said, I've chased you." And then he just tapped this lad, and he probably would be just like my size now, looking back. But because I was so small,
yeah,
he looked gigantic. And he turns round and he goes, "He hasn't got your cap, mate." And just because I was a kid and just cheeky, I just went, "He has." And he went, "He hasn't got your cap, mate." I went, "I've just seen him run away with my cap." And he went, "Just give me his cap back." Right? And he lifted his top up and about 40 caps fell out his hand. And he said, "Which one's yours?" I said, "Well, you nicked mine, you nicked me mate's. I took a Burberry one as well."
But the thing is, what you say there, like, you look at them lads now, right? And you look at us. I can remember in school, right? And I used to look at the older lads, and they were absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And there was some of the lads who we used to knock about with, and I would be thinking, like, I don't obviously think of like them being as like big, of us being as big as what they were.
Yeah.
Because obviously we don't see it from that. Like,
but we're big now.
We're the big now. Right? It's like
they looked at us. They look at us how we look at people who are 10 years younger than us now. So they still look like big guys. You got to remember now we're in our 30s now. So it's slightly different. When we were 21 and we were looking at like our friends our friends now who were 14, 15 at the time, they did look like little boys, and that's probably how they looked at us then. But you're right. I always thought, no, I'll never be that big. Like the massive, especially in the monkey. Everybody's got the tops off, like raving away and that. Just like these hench blokes, and they probably only been at the gym for a couple of weeks. Like these shit about them, just bit of bench press, couple of curls, and they're like, "Fucking hell, I'm not going near that guy." Like he's hench, big belcher chain on, and that was basically school life, rave, wasn't it? I mean, we had some fun times on the way. I remember hockey in what year was that? Yeah, hockey.
Was it? Yeah, it was Miss Ballman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was like, was it year 8, year 9? And we went down. Where did we go down to?
It was only at Hovell.
Nah, can you not remember when we went to that tournament? And it was somewhere down Riverside, I think. Yeah, down Teesside.
Was that the one we run through the school?
And we were like,
so just to give you,
got on the bus and she was like, gonna kill us basically.
Just to give you a flavour of like what we were saying earlier, where we were probably just cheeky, never like malicious. Is we're meant to be playing hockey, and a couple of us and our other friend Detton, who's obviously nuts as well. We kind of went looking around the school that we were playing hockey at, that we just wanted to get out of school, play hockey. Went looking around the school, and basically ended up in one of the lessons or something, and got shouted out by the teacher that came over the tannoy, Miss Bowman, saying like, "Can Kyle, Declan and Geth get back to the hockey field?"
Was it it was Hoffel.
That was Hoffel?
Aye.
Because we jumped on the bus, and Declan jumped in the driver's seat will have been 14, 15 as well at the time. Started the minibus up and tried to reverse it out to see how far we get, because we were all smoking out the bus. He's like, just start up, reverse. Oh, nah, that's too far. And then, well, you see, like, I loved it in the bits, but you see where he went in robbing, stealing taxis and shit. He liked a bit of a joyride, like. So, yeah, and then that's what I mean. We were never like malicious. I mean, I always say like I kind of regret me senior years a little bit, because of me like early teen years, mid-teen years, because I came from two cracking parents. Like, people know me dad, he's a cracking bloke. Do you know what I mean? So I always felt like I let them down a little bit. When I look back now, back then I just didn't want that to do them. I was like, get away from us.
Aye.
These are my family. Like, I'm from the streets.
It's embarrassing when you're that age, though. It is like, you look at some of the TV shows and you're watching them, and they're being little pricks to the parents, and you're like, come on, mate. I think that resonates between, like, for what we were like when we were in school, like, especially like because we were in the same set in school.
Yeah.
Like me, you, and Righty, we were there.
We weren't stupid lads either. That's the worst thing. We were like smart lads, which makes it worse. And one of the things I was going to say is how we'll end every podcast, especially when we've got guests, is what advice would you give to your 15-year-old self or 20-year-old self looking back now? And yeah, you're right. You look back and you just think, arsehole.
Aye.
But we were having fun at the time.
We were.
I loved it.
Some of them lessons what we had, like the history lessons, when it was just...
But then you've got to think of the teachers as well, like, because we might have thought we were just mischievous, but
by the way,
hell.
Shout out to Mr. Lynch who said we would never amount to nothing, and you were right.
Mr. Lynch.
Oh,
legend.
He hated us.
Only people who went to Dean House, that's going to be quite a niche thing. Only people who went to Dean House School will know Mr. Lynch, but what a legend. But they were like trying to drum RE in us, right? Like religious education. I don't know how many, if all the schools around the country do RE as much as they did up here. But RE, man, you're trying to get testosterone-filled 15-year-old boys to sit down and listen to you talk about Buddha's, Jesus, all this, right? We don't want to know about that, right? We just don't care. And even if you are religious, there's nothing wrong with being religious, right? I'm not religious.
Yeah.
I think it's some magician back in the day who's basically who's basically fooled everyone.
Yeah.
But you can't. You've got to come at a different angle. Trying to get testosterone-filled boys who are just trying to be cool, to listen to the taughts of Jesus, who've never had that pushed into them in their lives before that. They're not at a Catholic school. We're not at a Catholic school. It's just you're wasting your time.
It's the I think as well the curriculum now is just totally backwards.
Well, we were just talking about this before, weren't we?
Yeah. It's not like
that RE could have been filled with economics or finance.
Yeah. Something like for myself, I obviously left school and I ended up getting in like...
It's like a bug's life in here, isn't it?
I ended up getting in like massive debt, which then like was a trigger or one of many triggers which was like pushed me in the wrong direction of being on the bad side of mental health.
Yeah.
And that's obviously one of the things that we're going to speak a lot about on this podcast is about mental health. Obviously mental health in general, but because we're two blokes, a lot of it will be, male focused. Yeah,
we wouldn't. There's no way we're gonna sit and preach about women's mental health when we have no experience of. That's the reason. Don't get us wrong. We will have guests on. Probably at some point that may be able to give that angle. But you're right. That hour could have been filled with teaching us about how to spend your pay. Right, you get paid at the end of the month, right? To teach about education, keeping education. Try and keep your education. Eventually I'm going to have to work, right? And I get there with all this money at 18, if you start a job at 18 or 6, even if you leave school at 16, get a job, you're getting paid, even if it's like £800 a month, you've got no bills, you live with your parents. £800 a month. What am I going to do with that? I'm just going to piss it up the wall. Unless if they were teaching us about investing, or at least, you don't have to be investing, you don't have to be like, come out of school, fucking, what's he called, out of Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. You don't have to come out of school, Jordan Belfort, right? But knowing that, if I put it in a high interest account, or if I just put some aside to save up for me property at 20, right?
Yeah.
We'd all be...
I mean, that's a big thing, the property.
Yeah.
The property ladder.
Especially now looking at all our generation who is probably killing themselves to get properties. Struggling like mad. Making sacrifices here, there and everywhere. But if they'd known this at 19, probably would have been sorted by now.
I actually seen something on Twitter earlier, and it was something like... Somebody wrote saying, like... The comparison of there's always that niche comparison where it's back in the day, like, or if you like your grandparents will say, or back in my day, like I'd bought a house. And when you look at it, and the tweet was looking at the differences, and it was times like the wage now compared to buying a house then was like something like times 12. And like for obviously for lads like our age, where we back in the day, it was from what I hear and from what I gather from the way that other people speak, like the older generation, like my granddad and stuff like that, that was like a big respectful era where it was like you respected whatever your parents said, and you done whatever they said. Like I've even heard your dad speak about like his mum,
Yeah.
and how he like gave pretty much all of his wage, and like
Yeah.
it was the same for me granddad. He gave all the wage.
Went
to
back
the
into the
parents.
household, the family household, yeah.
And like for us, I think obviously we've been like massively let off when it comes to, you know, that environment.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, we could have also been learnt that in school,
Yeah.
but we weren't. We were learnt about science, and don't get us wrong. I mean,
If you want to pursue them avenues,
Yeah.
it's perfect. You know what I mean? But not everybody is going to be an academic,
No.
right? I mean,
they
like,
didn't even teach us about trades hardly, or they
yeah.
did.
If you were naughty, if you were
a
naughty,
naughty kid,
you got sent to trade.
Yeah,
and which is it's nuts to me. So if you I can't control you, so you're going to go and be a bricklayer, which is nuts because you look at our friends now. Some who are bricklayers are making more money than the people who were
yeah. And the
academics.
pig shit. No,
Yeah.
like, no offense to any of the lads.
No names mentioned, but they're earning cracking wages.
Yeah.
And you think, so why was that? Why is there a stigma? Who builds the houses all these rich people are living in? Because it's the guys who you taught them down to in school. These teachers are living in houses, right? Nice houses. Well, don't get us wrong. Me dad's a teacher, so I know the plight of teachers. I'm not going to say they're walking around in stately homes, but the houses the teachers are living in, they should know. They're basically working class people now. They should be speaking to people and knowing and having a better kind of grasp on things. It's not all teachers, it isn't, because there was some teachers that were really good at this, but there's certain ones that are just so far up their own arse that they can't realise that not everybody's built to be. We don't want everybody to be an academic.
Yeah.
If everybody was an academic, the economy would stop, right? Because everybody would be chasing the highest pay band,
Yeah.
right? We need people to do every job, right? Or the economy would stop. And that's another thing that could be taught, right? There could be a lesson, an hour a week, that says you don't have to be a university graduate with
No, you don't.
150 grand job that you hate because you're stuck in an office with a bunch of nutters as well.
The 9 times out of 10 the university graduates don't even get jobs in
No.
what they like.
No?
They'll like, I know people who's like from previous workplaces, they've got like degrees in things like history and stuff like that, and I'm like, well, aren't you going to go and get a job doing that? And they're like, no, we're going to come and get a sales job.
Yeah, they'll be like
sales jobs pay
they'll be
more.
like a supervisor in a sales job. Don't get us wrong; it shows that you have the aptitude to learn or be disciplined, because that's
that
the
is.
whole point of in a degree, is to show that you've got the discipline and kind of work ethic to be able to put your head down and work towards something. So that's why degrees. It's nuts because in America it's different. It's just like you just get a degree in whatever you can. But yeah, I do agree in that there's people that just don't even chase it. Or some people go and get a degree and just don't even do a high paid job. They just go back to, and they'll never pay their debt off. That's it, debt for life now.
Yeah.
And obviously my sister's been at uni, got degrees. She's in her student debt now. It's totally fine if that's what you're gonna do. It's just I'm glad I didn't go that route. I'm happy with the route I chose, definitely. But it's that route's not for everyone.
In the same sense,
You're back at uni now, so you can give that
I'm
perspective.
at uni
yeah.
now. I never went to uni from like being in college. I left college and I was sort of you're okay there.
Went down the wrong way.
So I went to college and I didn't finish.
Sorry, guys.
I mean, is it level 3 when you're in college? Yeah, it's a level 3. So I didn't finish that, and obviously at the time, like my dad was working at the school.
Sorry, mate.
It
went down.
out.
You know when you try and hold it in.
Water.
It went down. I went down the wrong way. You know when you try to hold it, I was trying to be serious because you.
I know where I'm at.
By the way, how hot is it this weekend?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, mate. Yeah, what were you saying?
For myself, my dad was sort of filling in for one of the PE teachers who was in the TA and had to go and.
That Mr. McConnell, that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. McConnell.
And because he'd done such a good job in the PE department, they wanted to keep him in the PE department. Because he'd done his like FA qualifications and stuff like that prior to coming into school. And I seen the way that he was and not the way that he lived.
Yeah.
Because I was with him all the time, and that made me think at that age I wanted to be a PE teacher.
Yeah.
That's what I want to go and do. So in college, obviously your dad taught me in college.
Yeah.
Kicked us up the arse as well. And like I just halfway through I realised like, what the fuck am I
Sitting
doing
in a fucking
here?
classroom,
like
man.
I'm just, this is not what I want to do. So I left. Then I tried to get an apprenticeship, but at the time I think I was like 19, and it was a big. It's totally different now to get an apprenticeship. But when I was trying to get an apprenticeship, I was applying for everything I could: electrician, plumbing, blah blah blah, anything.
But at that point, there was nothing about like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. But also, it was a case of you're not 16, you're not just coming out of school.
Aye.
And I feel like I was punished. Now you get people of all ages doing trades, but at the time
It was quite a lot dodgy upon.
the government wouldn't pay the employer unless you were of a certain age.
All right. Yeah.
So 9 times out of 10, you apply for apprenticeship. Now I'm going to give it to a 16-year-old, and I'm saying, well, look, I'm 19. I'm more enthusiastic.
I've got more experience as well. You're more
Yeah,
mature. Yeah. Even if it's only slightly, but yeah.
And they're like, nah, I'm giving it to the 16-year-old because they're going to get me. They're going to get
got the
paid.
funding. Yeah, the funding for it.
Which is fair enough, especially around this area when, like you say, there's not a lot of the jobs that were available.
Yeah.
Maybe as if, at the time as well, what hindered us a lot was that I couldn't drive. And I feel like a lot of people in this area, especially, because it's such a small area, there's a lot of people get hindered by the fact that they can't.
Because you don't need to, do you? We can walk everywhere.
Yeah,
everything's 2 minutes away. And it's
Exactly.
we live next to Peatley Industrial Estate, where most people work in this area. It's a walkable distance, bikeable distance. You don't need to drive, do you? So,
and it did hinder the fact that I couldn't get an apprenticeship, which I used to hate it, because that's all. When
That's
I
all you
came
wanted
out of
to
college,
do.
I felt like I wasn't bothered what I did. It was just a trade. As long as I had a trade, as long as I knew I could have a career, and go off and do my own work, or be able to do my own work. I mean, that was fine for me. But I ended up going into call centres and.
You just got into the cycle everybody else gets
Yeah,
into.
yeah,
And I was exactly the
cycle.
same. So 16, left school. They tell you all, GCSEs, get your fucking GCSEs, get your GCSEs. Worked hard as shit for our GCSEs. We both got decent GCSEs, well, very good GCSEs if you're going to look at them.
Yeah.
I was always better at the kind of sciences, maths era. So I went to sixth form to do that kind of IT, maths, all that jazz. And as soon as I got to sixth form, Durham sixth form, right, it was just like being back to school for another year. And I was like, nah. I was like, I thought school was the end, right? I thought I was done with being told to sit down, cross your legs, and fold your arms or whatever it was. So I'd put your hands on your head, all that bollocks. And it just felt like it was I've got another 3 years. It's just fucking being told. Like I'm not mature enough to even think for myself anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, now you look at what's the voting age, 16. So you're allowed to vote at 16 now. Back then it was like 16. You are still a baby. Don't get us wrong. Look, I'm telling you now, you do not get a mature mind until you're in your late 20s, hitting 30, right? And we'll get onto this when we get further down the timeline, how my mind's changed from then. But I was like, and I was a bit of a knobhead, so that doesn't help, right? I thought I was a lot cooler than I was. I thought I was a lot better than I was or whatever, right? So I was like, nah, balls to this. I always remember the day, I've told you this story before, but the day I left, our friend Greg come to pick us up. And I was like, right, that's it, I'm done. Come pick us up. And he was the first person to let drive. He had a little silver Renault Clio. And Durham Sixth Form is this beautiful place, really posh, in the middle of the city of Durham. I'm sitting in the computer room, waiting for him, with a hand on my head, leaning on the table. And I just look past the window, and a Renault Clio comes flying across, the green outside, the grass, the ornamental gardens. Yeah. Handbrake turns, there's 2 donuts, and then pulls up at the back door, the fire door for the thingy, and Naff sitting in the passenger seat. Get in. I was like, well, I'm going to have to leave college now, aren't I? There's no way I can come back here now when you've just done that. Anyway, I got a letter 3 weeks later saying, I want to know the name of the person driving and all that, but I was gone by then. And then I went into plastering with one of our other friends, Dodsey. Me and him lived the life, did bits and bobs, we won't get into that. Did what we had to do to kind of get by, and we had a good time. It was you're taking us through 17, 18, 19. We had fun. We were going out. You turning into like a sort of an adult, a
adult.
baby man, basically a baby man. Because I'll tell you now, all through your early 20s, you're just a baby adult. Going out, doing daft things, staying up all night, partying, all that jazz. But blasting at the same time, and I thought that was where I was going to go. Turned 19, did end up taking the career choice I ended up taking. And that's the rest is history. But I was still a knobhead all the way through 20s. I know for a fact that I could have had a lot more positive experiences with people if I had a better attitude through early 20s. And do you know what that is? Honestly, is I was never checked. When I was being a knob in my teens, I was never checked and said, look, you're being a dickhead, right? No disrespect to me dad, right? He's a cracking bloke. But if he'd have come down heavy and said, you're a dickhead, you're going to end up with nobody, no friends. I'd gone through this and I still had friends. I was like, well, what are you talking about? I've still got friends, so it doesn't matter. But did my friends actually like us? And that, do you know what I mean? Like, the friends, because we've been the same friend group for, like I say, 20 odd years. So they're never going to leave you just because you're being a bit of a knobhead or you just like kind of annoy people at time. But I definitely could have had better positive experiences around the country when I was travelling around working and around the world travelling around working if I'd been less of a dickhead. But then I was 20 years old, and this is where we kind of split up, didn't we? So college is where we went our separate ways, and we went. It must have been 4 years or 3 years before we spoke again.
I think it was like.
When did I pick you up that night?
I think it was like when I was 20.
I was in my current job then, so it must have been past 20.
It was when I was 21, maybe 22.
Yeah, and our lives had taken a vastly different trajectory to each other. I mean, we've been on the same trajectory the whole time. Love football,
we were always
decent at school.
Well.
Yeah, don't get us wrong. If I ever seen you, I'd come running over and see you. But we just had different friend groups. We'd kind of gone, and don't get us wrong, the friend group we've got now. I distanced myself from them, and I was trying to be with these cool guys over here, trying to be something I'm not. But yeah, so one night I was driving with my current wife, Laura, and we were driving along the top road in Peatley. I see this bloke just stood there at the side of the road. I can't remember, were you flagging people down? Or did you message us? You didn't message us, did you?
No.
I don't know if you were flagging people down.
No, you did.
Did I just notice you?
You turned round and I was obviously going through like a
bit of a bad spot.
Really bad spot. I was going through a breakup. It was like my first love, which killed us.
Yeah. But that compiled into multiple issues.
Like,
it was multiple issues compiled into one.
It wasn't just that. It was like I ended up in debt, and just in to be honest, right? I mean, it's funny that my dad always says this because I was knocking about with mint people, right? Yeah. Really, really, really good, genuine people who would do anything for you.
You did have a good friend group. I'm not gonna lie. Like, at that point,
it was really, really nice people like Martin Dunn and Louis Smith, Chrissy Byrne, like proper nice, genuine people who would do anything for you, right? And was really close to them through the football team that I was playing for at the time, which Martin was running. And it just, what happened in my life at that time was I was obviously with my girlfriend, with my ex-girlfriend, and it got to the point where, like, when you're young and it gets stale.
Yeah. Oh, because you get together as kids and then you mature.
We were together. Like, she was 17, I was 18. We went all through school together, and we absolutely fucking hated each other. We all hated that group. Yeah. They were horrible. Yeah. And then we saw each other turn out, and ended up like falling in love. Blah blah blah. And then obviously at every point in someone's relationship it gets stale, so then it was a kind of a case where I was knocking about with these lads who were always doing something. They were always doing something.
Kept you busy.
Yeah, so I was turning out like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. Sometimes on a Monday.
Well, you had the Monday of Madness, didn't you, for student nights as well?
It was a case of like 5 nights a week I was turning out. And when I think back now...
With no money as well.
Yeah.
We weren't getting paid.
No, I was working at Empower, me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. So you had a proper job.
I was working at Empower, so I was getting like... I was doing sales, and
Yeah.
I was getting like at the time £1,800 a month,
Yeah.
which was like
Just piss that up the
Yeah,
wall. Like that is like
just
that is
pure-
like
yeah.
show me the big bag. Where's
You're
that?
young. This is what I mean. If you learnt that in school, how to manage your money, and don't get us wrong, like I come from a family where, like, obviously I was pretty much raised by my nana and granddad, and my granddad has always been, you need
Decent
to look after
with
your
money.
money.
Decent
you
with
need to
money,
look
yeah.
after your money. You need to invest it. You need to do this. You need to do that. But I mean, when I'm young and I'm going out and I'm newly single,
It's strange
I
to say that, right? Because like my family are terrible with money, right? Like shocking. Like we were just on about tonight. I was on about tonight with my dad about cars, like buying cars, and we've made the same mistakes. And my dad's girlfriend said, Kia said, why did you buy that car to me? And my dad just turned around and went, because he's my son. And they're just like, oh, laughing. I was like, that's exactly why I bought that car. Everything was wrong with it, but I still bought it. And I brought up with like, don't wait for it, just get it. And so you've got no money left at the end of payday, go into your overdraft.
Yeah.
When you get paid, just take that off your overdraft. But it never works like that. You get paid and then something else comes up, right? And that was like my family's like take on money. Not all of them, but yeah. So it's strange to hear that you came for someone giving you advice about how to deal with money.
yeah.
And you still ended up in a not a very good position.
I always had this thing where I've needed to rebel, and I think it's because of
Because it was your granddad telling you. It's,
well, not that
well.
because of the way that, like, obviously my relationship was with my mum.
yeah,
I always had a relatively alright relationship with my dad. It wasn't the closest,
yeah,
but because of the relationship with mum, I feel like I projected a lot of me rebellion into when I lived with my nana and granddad.
yeah.
And then
Because you're a rebel when you're young anyway.
Because and you've got to think as well. So I'm still like, this is like the 18 to 21, 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And somebody's saying to you, you need to do this for your money. You need to save this money. And I'm going,
Fuck off, man.
fuck that. I'm out there.
I was going to say the boys are texting.
But the thing is, I wasn't just going out. I was
Single as well.
I was getting a new
Clothes every time.
Every time I was getting a new pair of flossies.
For those
out the
for
flossy crew.
people who don't know what flossies are, I think down south version was Tom's.
Yeah.
You weird southerners with your Toms, right? We were all about the flossies, £7 a pair.
Oh, man.
2 pairs every week. Yeah. Well, it was £7.
Night.
I mean, there was £7.
Yeah.
So every market stall sold them.
And it was that, and then a pair of Humour jeans and a True Religion top, like the Humour jeans themselves was like 110 quid, or that wasn't just the jeans; it was the chinos.
Aye.
And can you remember
saggy crotch and that. Proper Geordie
Shore
Geordie Shore style, that, like, wasn't it?
And the True Religion tops, you're talking like 30, 40 quid.
Aye.
And if you doing that 5 nights a week, right?
Aye.
Eventually, I progressed to a point where I got like into me overdraft really so bad. But at the time, and I'll say this obviously, like, everyone thinks I used to have a gambling problem, and I didn't. I
gambled.
I gambled, and
Yeah.
I used to enjoy it. But what used to happen, because if you were doing that constantly without an extra income, right, it would be a case of like you wouldn't be able to sustain it.
Yeah.
So what we used to do is pretty much every night, and it would be like Martin Dunn, and Bear were the main ones.
Aye.
And what we would do is we'd go to the casino, 20 quid limit. So we wouldn't bet any more than 20 quid.
Yeah.
And we would just go in and say, right, whatever we're up, we'll use that money to turn out. And if we weren't up, we wouldn't turn out.
Oh, really?
Aye. So we would be like, right, but most of the time we were up.
Yeah.
So it was a case of we would go in with 20 quid, come out with 200.
It was just enabling
and
you.
It was just like...
It was just enabling you.
Yeah. And it just prolonged the inevitable.
Yeah.
Where I feel like they got lucky because their parents sort of bailed them out.
And just grabbed all of them and said...
No, they paid for the debts.
Yeah.
And they paid it off. And they said, like, look...
stop now. We'll deal with it now. We'll deal it now.
You owe us the money.
Yeah.
Which obviously that was their way of doing it, but I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So then, for me, it was a creep, and like it was like the Grim Reaper on my back. Like it was fucking horrible. I was getting debt letters. I was getting wongas. To like, and you.
Well, this was the start of
payday. Pay Paul.
Yeah. that was the start of payday loans as well. We'll touch on that because you fucking bastards, right? Wonga, what was the other ones?
Cash for money and
Cash for money, all years, right? You fucking took advantage of people
in debt.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna say it was desperate people as well. But you took advantage of the young people. You took advantage of people who were too immature to realise what they were doing because you knew that was a good money making scheme. Yeah. You fucking bastards, hang your heads in shame.
People who would say, "Oh, I'll just get a bunga."
Yeah.
And the amount that you would pay back.
No man.
Wow.
Scammers. That's all they were modern day scammers. Them.
Yeah.
That's all they were. Bastards, man. So yeah, I always thought you'd got in trouble with gambling. I didn't realise it was just basically just not minding your money.
Yeah, it was a kid. See, that's what all the lads think. Yeah. They'll say like, "Oh, you used to be bad for gambling," and I'm like, "I wasn't. Yeah. I didn't. It wasn't a case of like I would put 20 on, then I would go, there's another 20, there's another 20.
And then you'd be betting on
one.
Yeah.
It was a case of, and this is the
You'd be betting on
truth.
Moldovan back nine.
Yeah,
golf.
We just loved the roulette, right?
Yeah.
We loved the excitement.
The roulette was
going in. Yeah. So we would go in 20 quid, get it changed to 50s, and like we all had our favourite numbers. I used to call it was the Diamond of Doom. It was like the it was like a diamond of blacks at the back.
Yeah.
Like, it was like 29, 33, 31, and 35 maybe.
I was like 29, 35, like I'm not gonna lie. 29, 35.
I used to call it the Diamond of the Doom. Yeah. Diamond of Doom, sorry. And then obviously I had my normal favourite numbers, 10.
Yeah.
And whatever. And if we won, we won.
Night out.
Yeah, it was the night out. If we didn't, we would, like Martin would drive back.
Really?
Because a lot of the time when we used to drive through to Sunderland, where it was when Liquid Prime days and all that, and Martin used to never drink. He used to just drive through. So it was always a case of we always had a lift through. So we weren't paying the taxi money. And
that's a huge enabler as well, right? When you sat there and you're like, well, somebody's going to drive. Well, then I'll go with I would go through with no money.
He never drank and drive.
Yeah.
He never did anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just a case of.
It's a proper enabler, that.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, I'll go through with just me entry money, and I know for a fact I'll get a drink off someone. It'll keep us going. When you're 19, you got no job or whatever, you're just like, I'll get a drink off someone.
As well, we'd been in the colliery club.
Yeah.
The colliery club.
Pund or the pint.
Really, it was like at the time it was like £2 for a bottle of Corona.
Oh, people down south or people I work with don't believe because I always talk about, they always say, oh, you fucking love the north and all this. I'm like, I'm paying £5.50 a pint down here. Right, I was like, you don't realise that the Coms used to have £1.85 pints of Carlin on special. £1.85 a pint, when everywhere else in the country was like £3.50 a pint, and that was like cheap. Everywhere else down south, five quid on a pint. I went to London, it's like £6 odd. It's nuts, man. But pre-drinks. But you'd just be in someone's living room. Yeah. Pre-drinks. You could just get someone to go to the shop, get a like we've got here. Like I've just been to Asda, Sambuca, a bottle of sours, a bottle of wine, and then you'd go drunk and not spend a penny on drink because you were that drunk when you already got there. It was like go drunk and you won't spend a penny, and then if somebody says, do you want a bottle? Happy days, you're away.
Yeah, and that was, and I think that's the majority of the nights out anyway.
Yeah,
which we've had was, especially when we were young.
Shout out to Varsity. Pound a diesel. Pound a pint of diesel. Half cider, half lager, bit of blackcurrant for £1. I totally forgot about that.
And Varsity diesels were the nicest.
Yeah, they were.
They used to use that Schweppes blackcurrant. Oh my god! If anybody is gonna make a diesel, they need to go to Asda and get a bottle of Schweppes blackcurrant, because that is next level. Like that was just made diesel.
But there's photos, right? Everybody's got is just purple stains down the t-shirts. Every photo is just purple stains down the t-shirts because all we drank was diesels, and it was Varsity cards as well.
Tops.
Aye,
and they were always white. Aye, with the baseball tops. Oh my god, the fashion was rotten.
It was rotten. Like when you look back, obviously memories come up. Cringe. And I was saying to Laura the other day, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to delete my Facebook, like, because at any point, somebody can go back and look at the statuses I wrote in 2009 when I was 19, 2010, and that shit when the memories come up and everybody else will say the
Song
same.
lyrics and different things.
Well,
like that.
can you remember, right? Facebook's done us a cropper here because Facebook used to say Kyle Johns is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so you used to write is thinking of so and so, or is doing the dishes, etc. Right? For example, if you look back on that now, it just comes up as Kyle Johns. It just says Kyle Johns, and then because your status used to start Kyle Johns is, and then you would write whatever came after. Now it just says Kyle Johns, and then it's got like loads of shit underneath it. It's like you absolute weirdo.
Oh, was down the mini Dean.
The worst thing is everybody, like loads of people have changed Facebooks now, new Facebooks, all this, right?
That's why I don't get memories.
So all the people who commented back in the day, like giving context to the status,
it's gone,
and it's me commenting to myself because I've got the same seeing more embarrassing shit, right? Like, yes, bro, well, we like, what is da crack for coming to Damini Dean? Like,
why did we type like that as well?
Quicker?
And
it was text type.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong. I'm pretty bad for still texting like that. Like I'm like an old man.
I'm really bad.
That's what's brought my grammar on. You picking people up. I'm like, I'm not going to give them any. If I'm going to mock them, if I want to take the piss out, it's going to be in fucking perfect grammar, basically. Well, we used to. Comes with MSN days where where you would type da and it would come up this flaming da, like because it was like an emoji, original emojis.
Thing when you used to type in, it used to come up. Yeah, mate.
Look at you for what they called now. What they called Gen X's now.
Gen X.
Gen X's, right? We had fucking emojis in 2002.
Yeah, they would.
Best believe that shit.
They instantly typed.
There was an S, and it was somebody shacking in bed. For an S.
Yeah, but you could make your own emoji.
Yeah, and put it to that thing. Yeah.
You could add the GIF in.
You type.
It would be like someone humping.
Bang on. Them were the days. Like,
do you know what? I think that's the worst thing that Microsoft ever did. Get rid of MSN.
Did they get rid of it?
I honestly believe I would still be on MSN.
I just thought we moved to different things. Text came in, so it was just like
what they did. They integrated all of MSN into Skype.
Did they?
So it became
oh
Skype.
Right, yeah. But then not long after that, phones came around. So then we were texting anyway. So it just became this.
It was the days of the BlackBerry. Can you remember?
No, because first came Nokia's after MSN.
No, it wasn't. Nokia's was when we were in school, and then when I can remember when I left college, I got my first ever job at Albany, and I got a BlackBerry.
You're right.
I got a BlackBerry, and because I went down because my nana had always had like it wasn't a proper full contract. It was just the SIM only contract for us. Just to get credit to text. Just sort of text her and let her know where I was and whatever. And then I can remember getting my first pay, go down to the phone shop in the town. What was it called? Phones for You. Was it Phones for You?
Phones for You?
Phones for You. I got a BlackBerry, 35 quid a month, and I was...
Was it Phones for You or something like that?
The mate, then BlackBerry.
BB pins. That's what you see, isn't it? In the clubs, like can have your BB pin? Gives you BB pin.
That's another thing. That's BlackBerry died out as well.
Well, it's not though. BlackBerry's still going. You know, they've got like sub companies now that do all sorts of like tech. It's just and the BlackBerries are still going. They still bring BlackBerries out. They're just not. They're used by business moguls and stuff like that. It's not used on there.
Like that, really,
it was. Well, that was meant to be for the businessman who could text on the fly and just that little group chats and stuff like that, like what WhatsApp is now. It just became available to everybody, and then Apple came on the scene and just took over. That was the problem. BlackBerry would have went a lot bigger if Apple never came around. Apple just stole the market from everybody. It was just too good. It was too convenient, too cool,
too easy to use.
It's
the Apple
marketing
phones are the most user-friendly phones.
Marketing, everything. Well, the thing is, people hear it, right? Because especially Android users, like, fucking Android, no Android. They've got the technology first, and then Apple are stealing. Yeah, but Apple steal that technology, make it easy to use.
Yeah, they do.
And that's what they do, right? People always get mad between the two. You don't have to get mad between the two. Apple do get the technology second, and they do steal it, but they make it easy to use, and that's the big thing.
The thing is, it's all your personal opinion. If you actually like Samsung, like for me, I've I had a Samsung phone before.
I have as well. Yeah.
And I really didn't like it's. I just looked at the user interface.
We had it for one contract, and then got rid of it. Yeah.
And I went, this is not for me. So and I got it, but within the space of time when you can say I don't want this phone. And I sent it back. I only had it for about a week.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'd given it more try, but as well the camera. I always feel like the camera quality on Samsungs is when you're
better
video recording. No, for example, Snapchat.
Yeah.
I could always tell when someone had a Samsung phone because the quality of the videos were absolutely.
There's somebody on my Snapchat now. I'll not name no names, but it looks like the fucking video on a potato.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I think Hawaii changed them out a little bit later on, later in the game, but. You're right. It looks like someone's video on a fucking potato.
Why? How come when you're recording off an iPhone, you could get the first iPhone, record off the Snapchat, and the video quality would still look better than the modern day Samsung?
Can you remember 3 phones that had the swivel camera on the top?
Yeah.
Right, the original video camera, they were about 6 foot long, right? And they had a swivel camera that could go a selfie to video out. That camera looks like what people video on Samsungs, yeah.
They are naughty.
The original video phone. It's nuts when you think. So video phones come out when we were 13, 14. So it must have been 2004, 2005. And we are where we are now, only 16 years later. Now, if you look 16 years before 2005, was 1989. Yeah. People in 1989 thought we were flying cars by 2000, right? Or, it is the year 2010. And there's like some flying cars flying about, right? No, but the tech change is unbelievable. Yeah. Look at movies. If you want to look at tech, and this is one thing I always say, right? If you want to look at how technology's changed, look at movies from 1989 to 2000, which is 11 years, right? 2000 movies were still shit CGI. It wasn't even called CGI, but I can't remember what it's actually called. CGI only came about early 2000s, I think.
I think it was was it not the introduction of like Avatar and stuff like that?
Yeah. And then it became like the green screen kind of era onwards. But then you look at another 11 years, 2000 to 2011, jeez. And then another 11 years now, where it just looks like real life.
If you look at the comparison a lot of people are making now is the Spider-Man films.
It's a good shout, that actually.
Because they're saying about Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield is going to be in the new Spider-Man film, which I really, really hope so. Please, Marvel, make that happen.
Fucking nerd.
And
I like Spider-Man, by the way. I'm just not as big a fucking nerd as he is.
Yeah, I'm the craziest nerd. And so what they're saying is, everyone always jumps on the bandwagon saying Tobey Maguire, best Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But they're saying, was he the best Spider-Man? Because he was the best Spider-Man at that time. If you look at the films now, they're so cheesy.
The shit.
If you look at the CGI and everything, it's terrible.
Nostalgia beats everything. Yeah. Right.
Well, look at one of my favourite films is a film called Labyrinth, right?
Yeah.
David Bowie. And that there is just puppets.
It's dog shit cinematically, isn't it? Yeah,
but
it's dog shit.
I can still watch that on repeat over and over, and it's like it's one of the best films out. And probably because it was a childhood film, what I used to watch with like my nana, and
that's what it is. It's making you. It's making you. So
it's nostalgia.
I've got a perfect example, right? My favorite film when I was a kid, or my favorite series of films, was Jurassic Park, right? The good thing is, we've had a remake of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch Jurassic Park 1, the first Jurassic Park, right, and look at the dinosaurs, you can see the mechanics in the neck, right, of the ones that the close-up do, and you can see, it looks like it's in a different piece of paper, the dinosaur walking across the hill, right? And then you look at the one that Chris Pratt's in now, and it looks like he's next to a dinosaur. That is a perfect example of 20 years worth of tech, right there.
It's unbelievable how far it's come.
But I prefer the old ones because of nostalgia.
Because of the nostalgia, yeah. That's what. Well, that's what a lot of people are saying. Is the comparison of Tobey Maguire against Tom Holland.
Yeah, I like Tom Holland. I think he's a very good Spider-Man. Well, Spider-Man's a nerd, and he's meant to be a nerd.
Yeah, and that is him.
Yeah.
What they say Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was the best Peter Parker, but Tom Holland is the best mixture of both. Yeah. Which in my opinion, I think Tom Holland just nails it.
Yeah, I think he's good.
He totally nails that role. Like,
I like how Aunt May's a young, like, hot aunt as well.
She's hot.
Is that...
And Robert Downey, Iron Man, is like...
Because we're 30, 31 now, right? Having a hot Aunt May is a lot better.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going back and watching Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and being like, oh, Aunt May.
No, she's got grey hair.
But then you look back at that, and the reason everybody loved Aunt May then is because it was like everybody's nana.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, Aunt May's like our nana kind of thing. And then now you get older, you're like, well, if I want to take my kid to watch this, I want to be able to look at Aunt May with a little bit of a difference. Yeah, she is. Yeah. Who is that? Who is that?
It's I can't remember the name of the actor. Actress, but she.
It's just acting now, mate.
Oh, is it?
No
Okay.
actor now, actress.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's off something that I've seen before, but I can't.
Yeah, she's quite famous though. She's like quite she's in a lot of things. We got way off track there, right? We're on fucking Spider-Man. Right, so we were on, right, like the kind of, not you weren't gambling or anything, but we were all going out, spending too much money that we didn't have. The difference is I was finding every conniving little way to get, so this is my perspective of it.
Yeah.
I was finding any conniving little way to get money, right? It was just like, whether it was buying, selling this, or little schemes here, little schemes there. We were plastering one wall here really badly, and then because I was on a plastering course, and buying quad and selling it for 50 quid more to this guy. That's how I lived in it. That was all my drink money leading up to when I got into the kind of career I'm in now. And then from then on, I kind of got detached a little bit from yous because I was away a lot, basically. And I was only home, well, I wasn't even home on weekends. I'm like Yorkie now, where I was in the early stages of my career, so I wanted to be away a lot. Wanted to get around the world, see the world and all this bollocks. And then we all kind of drifted a little bit then as well. Our early 20s, I feel like we got back together, and then our whole group kind of just trickled away for maybe a year.
Yeah.
Because then I was with like Griff and that, and all them boys, and then we got back together, and then the rest is history. And here we are. We've had some mad times along the way in our 20s as well. Don't get us wrong. But what I want to focus on.
I can always remember, right? The one of the times when, so going back to when you the story of when you picked me up with Laura. You and Laura came and picked us up, and I can always remember, like, you were like, oh, mate, I've seen you like fucking with your head down, and you look, and I was probably sick of my life at the time.
Yeah.
And you and Laura, like, obviously hadn't like knocked about with you for ages, but you and Laura like came.
You hadn't met Laura at the time anyway, right?
No, not really.
No, we'd only been together about 3 weeks, I think, at the time.
I didn't really know her. And you came and you were like, oh, listen, I'll give you a lift to wherever you're going. I think did you take us?
Might have been back to Vibe, you know. I think I might have dropped it off. Oh, no.
Nah,
You wanted
to a party. You took us to a party up. Did you not take us to one of Jonesy's parties?
Possibly, aye.
Because right in that were there.
Aye.
And I think you took us up there, and then obviously went to that party and, you know, been there and like, oh fucking hell, hi righty, like haven't seen you in ages, like hi lads, fucking blah blah blah, and I had a really good night. And then
you're on about your dad. You're on about your dad. What your dad said to you as well, aren't you?
Yeah, but no. So what happened was, after that, I was like, oh, well, and I still went back and knocked about with the lads who I was knocking about with.
Yeah.
But then I was still knocking about with them, and then sort of coming out with, it was gradually like, I was gradually...
Yeah, just merging in it.
Because it was a case of like where, like, when you don't knock about with someone who's your friends for a while, you do feel
awkward.
Awkward and shit. So it was a case of, I was knocking about with them, and then I can always remember, I was in Vibe. Was I in Vibe? I think so. And you, like, yous all rang us, and you were like, Geth, like, you need to come back and knock about with us. Like, we you fucking...
So I was just saying, that night, we went to one of our friends, is like, he was house sitting for his cousin at this big, posh house in... I don't even know where it is. Middle of Newcastle. Really posh estate in Newcastle, right? Massive house. And they basically just took a massive bag of eckies, up to the house, and they all go. Obviously, the career I'm in now, I kind of didn't take it, and I was just on the drink, and that's been the case for my life since. But they were all full of. I remember falling asleep. They set my foot on fire and everything while I was asleep. But they were a nightmare. But I can remember I was awake when we rang you. I remember saying.
You were on the phone. You were like, all you were like, oh, Geth, like, come on, not about with us again, blah blah blah. And I think Liam Watson had a christening, and it was a Sunday, and my dad, everyone was out on the Sunday. My dad was like, come down. Yeah. Because that was
all the boys were here.
That was when it was.
Because we all lived there.
The peak Sundays down the Moms.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, come down, and he was like, these are your mates who you've grew up with from school. He was like, it's very rare that you get a group of mates who stick together and are always like really, really good mates.
Shadow's just having his way right next to us, like,
now settle down. So, and my dad was like, you need to not about them, and I don't know what it is, but something just clicked, and I was like, yeah, you're right, I do. And I remember the first night I came back, and we were up Jonesy's again, because that's where we used to be like the main end of a vibe. Like, and then we ended up all night, going down
standard
Jodie Vaugh's, like obviously her mum and dad, and we were in there for a bit, and then we ended up going to comms, and I remember just be like, fucking hell, I'm off. Like, you know me, I'm a backdoor bandit. And then it was after that I went, right, I'm back with the lads, and after that it was
comfortable.
It was comfortable. There was no awkwardness, and it was just like, do you know when you just feel like, this is where I'm meant to be. I'm meant to be with me boys.
Fate's put us back here.
There's something like I wouldn't have if you hadn't have fucking picked me up that night.
Mad to think. We're sat here now, right? We're sat here now. At that time, we hadn't spoken to each other in 2-3 years. Randomly driving along. It was about 2:00 in the morning as well. It was worth saying.
Really
Me and Laura were driving back from a party, and you just stood on the side of the road by yourself. I drove past you and went, was that Geth? And don't get us wrong, I'm quite an awkward person, me. I seem quite confident, but I'm very awkward, especially when I'm sober. And I drove past you. Normally,
I tell you what happened, because this ties into the awkward. So I always remember that when you dropped us off, right, and you went to fist bump us, and I went to shake your hand.
That is the classic one.
Like, that was a bit awkward. And it was like, oh my god, what the fuck?
I can't remember when I was listening the other day, and they were on about like the most awkward greetings or goodbyes, right? And number one was fist bump, shake the fist bump.
You went to fist bump us, and I grabbed your hand, and it was like, okay.
Bye then. But I would have every other night of the year, I would have just drove past and went, was that Geth? And then probably said to the lads the next day, I think I seen Geth last night on the side of the road. But for some reason, I was just like, right, I'll go back and pick him up and just see how he's doing. Because you were kind of, I think you were just stood still as well. You weren't walking. So if you had seen you walking, it might have been different. But you were just like kind of just stood in the path. And instantly, when you got in the car, you kind of like opened up a little bit. Not like about everything that was going on. You were just like, oh, I'm just wandering because I'm having a shit night. And I was like, well, these are having a party there. Do you want to go up there? And then took you up there or whatever. And then rest is history. And then we kind of just never left.
Aye, after that.
You just never left?
Nah.
So it's my fault. It's my fault. My fault. You just hung around like a bad smell.
It is crazy to think that your paths can like. Because I always think of these people who. When
I'm older, I've realised that. Like it is a big thing, like the way the universe puts you, right. Back then, I would never have thought that. Right, I was too immature. Didn't have an open enough mind for that kind of thing. I'd have told you're talking absolute bollocks, right? But definitely now, I think the kind of the world brings in, or the universe brings people into your life who you need in your life at that time, and at the time in our group, it was mainly very not testosterone filled, but it was very laddie. And we always say you bring the feminine side of our group. You do. Not the feminine side as in like the kind of, just like, I don't want to offend anyone. But you know what I mean? It's more like you bring the emotional side. Like think about what you're saying. Yeah. Don't say that to someone. That's not a nice thing to say. It's something I've always loved about you, right? The fact that I'll say something and you'll be like, why did you say that? That's fucking not very nice. And I'll be like, because this, and you'll be like, but why does that bother you? And it's one of the things that made my kind of my way of thinking change about the way I speak to people, the way I treat people, the way I act. But yeah, I definitely think the universe has a
Well, 'cause this is all
way
about
of
heart to hearts. When I came back, to the group,
mega heart to heart, man.
Like our group was always like lads, and it was like
Get as drunk as you can, go back to the party.
It was like you would go back to the party.
Yeah.
You wouldn't speak
Do something
about
stupid.
anything.
Yeah.
And then when I came back in the fold, it was like everyone used to be like, "Oh my god, here he goes!" Everyone used to be like, "Oh, he's on the heart again."
You'd get your turn. By the way, you'd get your turn every week, right? It'd go around the group. One Friday it'd be me, one Friday it'd be one of another friends, and he'd just make his way around the groups, tell everybody the deepest and darkest fears and what they should do about them. But it always comes from someone who's dealt with that sort of stuff. Shadow's just going mental upstairs at himself. You'll get to meet Shadow, hopefully.
Yeah.
And it always comes from someone who's dealt with sort of their own problems. And it's worth mentioning as well, right? So when we were at that liquid stage kind of thing is when obviously one of our best friends, Stacey, all that whole thing happened. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? Obviously the time, because you said before that you couldn't remember. But at the time when Stacey died, and me and you went down to see Pat and Arthur at the same time.
Yeah, we were talking about this
and
last week, weren't we? Or the week before.
Pat was like, "Oh, do you want to come and see her?"
Mm-hmm.
And it was that, and even then we hadn't
spoke.
spoke
yeah,
for
this is
years.
what we're on about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We hadn't spoken for years, and then obviously she was like, but Stacey drifted between like our friend group and the lads who yous were nothing about.
Yeah.
So it was like a kind of. I was still fucking dead close to Stacey when that happened.
Yeah.
And I can remember going in, and then you were there, like obviously to say your condolences as well. And Pat was like, "Well, we're going to see her. Do you want to come?"
I think when I picked you up, I don't think it was much longer after that, and I think that's why I thought differently, because I had recently seen you. I'm sure that's why.
Maybe
because when I'm thinking about when I met Laura, yeah,
Cause
I think it is quite close.
Because obviously when we went to Chapel of Rest and seeing Stacey, and I can just remember me and you, we were both crying, and we both just like cuddled each other.
Yeah.
And it was like, when you think back, like now, you don't think nothing of it.
Yeah.
Back then we wouldn't have thought nothing of it.
Yeah.
But now when you think back and you're like we shared that.
I'm glad I shared that moment with you.
We shared that moment
Definitely.
together.
Yeah.
And
when you remind us of it, it like fills us with warmth straight away. I was like, shit, I totally forgot about that.
First ever dead body that I'd ever seen.
Yeah, same here.
And I remember Pat was crying, and she was saying, she was like shouting at Stacey, saying, "Go on, tell them what you've did and all this," and and we were both fucking. It
was brutal.
It's a horrible thing.
And so when other things have happened after that, since then, I've always said, I seen Stacey, I'd never ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
Like, don't get us wrong, I'm glad I did it, because I hadn't seen her in about a couple of months. So I'm glad I did it just to say goodbye, whatever. But I'll never do it again. I'll never, because you're just expecting them to just like sit up and just be like,
because she was in the
Chapel of Rest, yeah,
full of makeup,
yeah,
and like
looked warm and looked.
It doesn't not look like a dead body.
Nah,
basically.
Nah, it was a strange time, and then so that something I didn't actually mention when we were going through. So that sent me down my path of being a dickhead. Basically, I drank heavily, heavily for a 19-year-old. The amount I was drinking at that point, it would be like, and it wasn't going out either. I would drink 3 litres of cider, just sat in someone's house, 3 litres of cider, and then I'd go and sit in the park, have me kind of time to myself, drink another litre, get home, and I'd be like, right, to Dodgy, come pick us up, we're going to the town. I'd order like 4 litres of cider deep, you know what I mean? That had a big impact in my life. We need to mention that because that had a huge impact in everybody's life. It kind of brought everybody in our school circle back together, kind of thing. We all kind of said, right, is everybody okay? Like, is everybody okay? Because we thought she was perfect and fine.
Yeah.
Happiest person you ever met, and that wasn't the case. and it was something I mentioned. I did a mental health first aid course not long ago. Shout out to the Happier Employee. A little plug there, Mike, from Mike O'Hara. If you search the Happy Employee podcast, he's a mental health first aider and does a lot of courses. Cracking guy. But I did the mental health first aid course with Mike, and brought a lot of that out. And things I've never spoke to anybody about, guilt, and kind of, I probably should have recognised earlier, or because I was like socialising with her right up to the point, about a month, two before, and I probably had the warning signs there. The warning signs were probably there, and I, not that I chose to ignore them. I didn't choose to ignore them. Just so naive and so knobbedish. I was just like, all I thought about was myself. But that had a big impact on our life. And then 20s hit, and then what happened then? So we basically just kind of just minced through, getting on the smash. It
was just a case of we would go out and get fucked up every weekend,
and then
it wasn't a case of like we would get fucked up on a Friday, on a Saturday, on a Sunday. Every single weekend.
The thing is, none of us had kids.
No, not until
late 20s, did we? So
you think the kids only came like within the last,
which is
4 or 5 years.
It's a horrible thing to say, right? But from 21 through to maybe 26, there's nothing to talk about other than nights out, right? There'll be some funny stories in there. Don't get us wrong. They might drop in at points here and there when we remember them, but it's sad to see that the 20s were wasted in shit pubs doing nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously had lads' holidays and stuff, doing all the Ibiza and all that bollocks and all that jazz. But all that means doesn't mean fuck all, right?
No,
the good memories.
They're just good memories for us.
The good memories. They're not the boring, but the good memories for us. It's like inside jokes and all that. But when you think about it, we did nothing, right? We did nothing but work, menial jobs, doing nothing, and then I kind of got late 20s, and I think this is where I was on about earlier. I think when you hit late 20s, right, is when it changes.
Yeah.
I think late 20s is when you become an adult, right? I do truly believe early 20s you're not an adult.
And this is what I feel like when you're at that age and you get asked, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah. Oh, it's bullshit, that.
Like, how
that
the
is one.
fuck is someone supposed to know what they want to do for the whole entire life at such a young age?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to go a little bit down the deep end here, but like, I always struggled, which you well know, and then once I had DMT, it was like, it took everything away from us. What was, I can't even begin to describe what happened. But for anybody who doesn't know what DMT is, basically it's a drug what you smoke. And I was recommended it by like one of my really good friends, he suffers from PTSD, and he's obviously suffered mental health for a long time. I've suffered from mental health issues for a long time, so we both decided together that we were going to do it. He'd already tried it on his travels, but he was like, right, I'm going to bring it back, and I think it might help you. And it's a fucking scariest experience of. I've been in some mad situations. Like, I can't remember when we were down Hartlepool and we were getting pulled the knife out on us and that. And
I fucking hell forgot about that. Yeah, don't forgot about that.
We were in 8 or maybe we went down to Hartlepool. We got knives pulled out on us. That was my fault for being a
cheeky bastard. Yeah.
But like when I had this.
But you're 12-year-old.
Yeah.
You're 12-year-old, you get a knife pulled on you. Do you know what I mean? How does that affect you for the rest of your fucking life? Do you know what I mean?
It's a different branch, isn't it? It takes a different branch out of your life.
Yeah.
You see, then you're scared of situations.
I'm seeing people getting monkey days, people getting their heads booted in and stuff. You're just like a kid and you're just like, fucking hell. Like,
crazy.
But yeah, you're right. So DMT, you're going to end up on the Joe Rogan memes though. Like, have you taken DMT?
Yeah, but I'm not. I would never. So basically, like some of my friends have said like, oh, what do you recommend of DMT? And I would say like, listen, it's not for everyone. But me personally, like, I would go as far as saying that and the dog combined.
Yeah.
Because like one of our friends, Naf, said to me, the reason why you're suffering all the time is because you've got nobody there.
Yeah.
So I got my little dog Shadow, and he's the fuck. He saved my life first and foremost, more than anybody in this.
He's coming through the roof like squatting,
yeah.
but
he's
he's a legend, Shadow.
He saved my life basically. I got him because my mate said I needed a reason to get out of bed, and he became the reason that I got out of bed. And then I was introduced to DMT, and DMT just literally took me ego away.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have that big of an ego. I
wouldn't know.
Sort of did. I sort of did, but it took it away.
Yeah.
And then now I am I am like the most placid, one of the most placid people. It's a crazy like
spaceship ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, though, at one point I was standing on the shoulders of giants, and they were flicking us like, do you know, like as if you were rolling down the arm. They were flicking you off, and then I was landing on another one, and like it was the craziest. Like,
well, even Mike Tyson said the thing he said he took every drug that's ever gone right. He'd taken heroin, crack, everything in his career. He took DMT and he was like, I want to smoke this every day. Yeah. He's like, and he was like, it's the reason why he is who he is. He's scared of his past. He's scared of who he is when he trains in the gym, right? And it made him realise, like, shit, I was a fucking horrible person. Yeah. And that was because of DMT, because it basically checked his ego at the door and said, you're a dickhead.
Yeah.
Right? You're an absolute dickhead.
Get rid of this person.
Get rid of this dickhead. We don't like him anymore, right? We get rid of him. And then he said, all right, then I'm going to live my life a different way.
And look at him now. He's
look at it, from the experience,
around, isn't it?
From the experiences I've heard, I couldn't recommend that enough. But then again, we get onto the psychedelics of things, and then we look at psilocybin and mushrooms and stuff like
that. Jordan Peterson makes a fine example.
Yeah.
I can't quote him exact, but what he says is the human brain sometimes can't comprehend what happens in a state of trance.
Yeah.
So it can have an adverse effect on the way that you look at life, because you're gonna be thinking too much outside the box rather than just looking inside of the box.
Thinking you're in the Matrix, basically.
Yeah.
Start to lose it a little bit.
And that's when it can.
So it can have a negative effect as well. It does have negative effects as well.
Like I say, I wouldn't recommend drugs to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take them, then that's your own thing. But for me, DMT, I will say that it did help your journey.
Yeah.
Because then I got my apprenticeship. I didn't have my apprenticeship. I went, boom, I know what I want to do in life.
Yeah.
I got my apprenticeship. I went and done, how old was I? Like 27, 28 maybe?
It was when I was in the US. More 20
and I did an apprenticeship in IT, like shout out to Murph.
Groovy gang.
Yeah, Groovy Tech gang. Do you know, like he gave us the opportunity.
Yeah.
And like like we were speaking about before, you couldn't get them opportunities, but now you can.
Yeah, it's accepted now. Yeah.
So he put us on, and then now that's enabled me to be able to go to university and like study what I want to study, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's fucking
happy.
And hopefully I'm gonna.
You're gonna get something out of it.
Yeah, it's a career.
Yeah.
It's the thing what I've always wanted. It's a career.
Yeah.
Which is what I said earlier. I would have done plumbing. I would have done electricity. I would have done anything, as long as it was a career.
Yeah.
And now, I'm actually doing a career.
You're gonna get the chance at that.
Something that is very, very close to what I love.
Your hobby, basically. It's
a
hobby and a job.
Yeah, so I'm a gamer.
A jobby.
And I'm a gamer, and I'm doing games design at university. I mean, you can't like.
For you can't ask no more.
You can't ask no more, can you?
No. Alright, so we arrive at this point now where we're here, and this is so. The podcast basically was I'm not gonna lie. I think I said to you the idea, and then you straight away were like, "Yep."
Yeah.
I was like, "I want to do this, but I need you. You're basically the yin to the yang." Kidding.
Wow.
That was not rehearsed. I'm like quite. I'm still a bit of a knobhead. I am a bit of a knobhead. Do you know what I mean? But you bring that you bring that undertone of like just bring it down and get a little bit more serious at the same time as that we can both have a laugh. But it was more you tech as well. I've got no idea with all this gear, right? And don't get us wrong. I've set all this gear up,
You've
right?
done well, yeah.
I have.
You've done really well.
I am a member of Groovy Tech Gang right now.
I'm getting him a certificate printed out.
But we get to this point, and it was one of these things. It was like, right, every time we're on the drink, it started off as an idea, and then every time we're on the drink, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
For about a year now, a year and a half, maybe it's a bit longer, but a year and a half. We'll say every time we're drinking, we get drunk, and we'd have a conversation about something about now, like what we want to address. Because don't get us wrong, we're not just going to talk about our lives. The whole point of this episode was to talk about us two, to let everybody know who's listening who we are.
Give you a little bit of an insight of the life that we've had, and how close we are as friends.
Yeah.
Because we're not just like two random guys who've been stuck together. Who like sit in a room and we don't know anything about each other. We like literally live our lives together.
Yeah. So this whole episode was about finding out that. Our other episodes, we're going to have guests and stuff as well, but other episodes are going to talk about the kind of things that have been happening recently. We didn't want to get too into that because we'd be here for hours if we're going to try and ball up one subject every time we're on, or when we're not on with a guest. But yeah, we arrived now, and it was months in the making, and then we basically got our first guest. I'm not going to tell you nothing about it, right? And everybody might be like, well, are they lying about this or what? Yeah. But I'm not going to give it away too much at all. Well, I'm not going to give anything away. We've got our first guest end of this month, so it'll be the third episode, I think. We're going to have our first guest.
And it's, oh my God.
Well, he came into our lives again, right? And I'm telling you now.
He's been put in on the path.
We were already talking about this podcast, and this guy walked into the pub, right?
He's a cousin of our...
Yeah, he's a mutual friend, basically. Yeah. He's a good guy, so he's one of our friends now. Yeah. But we'd never met him because of his story, right? Which we'll get on to. He hadn't been in the country for a while. And he came into our life, and he started telling his story, and I just looked at Geth, and I just pointed and went, that's the first guest. Yeah. That is the first guest. And you...
It's such an interesting subject.
He was telling the story, wasn't he, in the pub? Because it was the first night out he had back in the UK. The first drink he'd had back in the UK.
Down the
rugby club, yeah. JD's bar, sorry.
When I beat Josh and Robbie in a race.
He came in, he's telling his story to the boys, and I just went, this is it. This is our opportunity. That story is a worldwide news-breaking story. It's unbelievable.
It's something that could interest a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because they will want to know, like, what it was like living the life that he lived for the past
20 years. So 96, I'll not give too much away. In 96, he left County Durham.
20 years then?
Almost 30. You come up 30 years in 2026. So what's that, like 26 years? No. 30 years in there. I'm not going to maths. Anyway, right. So he started telling the story. Looked at Geth, said that's the one. Went up to him, said, would you do this? He was like, 100%. He's like, your boys are from Horden. If you want to, you're already my friend. If I'm drinking in the same pub as you with the same friends, we're already friends. So I was like, right. And then it kind of fizzled out, and we just talked about it for ages, didn't we? We were like, that's a perfect guest. And then for about 6-7 months, and then he came during the Euros. This is when it happened. We're in the same pub, and during the Euros, I went, are you still coming on as a guest? He went, well, yeah, I'm fucking waiting for yous. I was like, shit.
We need to get this ball.
I was like, bollocks, right? I've been lazy here. Like, we've both been lazy here. We need to get this ball rolling.
That's who we are, though.
Yeah. He was like, I'm waiting for yous. I've turned down this, and this because I want to give yous the story. And I was like, fuck. Right. So I text Kev, like, right, come on.
We need to get it.
Let's get graphing. And then from the Euros to now. We didn't want to jump into it too quickly. We've come to now and then. He'll be on end of this month, so probably the third or fourth episode.
And we've already spoken to him as well, and like it might not even go into just one episode. Like he might be doing like a second part, or maybe he's even a third part. If
his story's that big, it may be too much for one episode. Basically, is what we're seeing. So
the podcast as well. Like we want to get people in our not just in our area.
Yeah,
we're not going to seclude it like the northern people, but we want to get people on the podcast. We're not just streamlining down one specific type of person who's done this and done that. Like the people that we want to get on is we would like to get interesting people on this podcast who maybe is doing something like we spoke about another guy in our area who did like a running thing where he ran for 8 hours a day for like so ever. He did
the Navy SEAL challenge. I can't remember what it was. 4 miles every 4 hours for 24 hours or something like that. Yeah,
that's something along those lines. Like we want to get people like that on. We want to know why they want to do it. We want to know the background. We want to know
if they've got businesses, new up and coming businesses, and they want to come on and explain how they got to that point of the business, and or got a book or anything, and want to try something.
Like it's just we
like chatting shit to people, and we want to chat shit with interesting people.
We want to hear
basically.
Like, and to be honest, I mean, obviously, I will love the audience that hopefully we eventually get, but for me, I want to hear the stories myself. Like
exactly, that's why I'm doing it.
It's more about I want to hear the stories, and then I can go, what, like to the lads or whatever. Like, have you heard this?
Yeah,
and they can listen.
I listen to podcasts like mad, and when I'm listening to stories, I think this is crazy. Yeah. I'd love to be sat in the room and speak to this person and just have a chat afterwards and see this person's eyes and stuff like that while they're talking. And that's I want to be in the room with that person while they're telling it. That's the reason behind it. And we've said before about, especially around here or in these kind of towns where people think they don't have a voice, we'll give them a voice, and that's the whole point. So we're here, episode 001. And I do want to dedicate this episode to Stacey because it was her birthday 2 days ago. We're on 11th now, so 4 days ago. Sorry, it was her birthday the other day, so we'll dedicate this podcast to Stacey. Stacey Lee Cummins, we love you. But yeah, we're here, and that was it.
Yeah,
done. Fucking nerves gone. That's it. We're on the board. We're on the scoreboard. So that'll be it, guys. If you want to find us out, we'll be on all the kind of, if you listen to us on whatever podcast streaming, we'll be on all the different podcast apps and stuff like that.
We'll be going on everything that you can think of, and then we currently have our Instagram, which is Only Phils and Northerners. We do have in Twitter, which is just being made, which is Only Phils North, because the character limit. And we will also be making a Facebook page as well, so you'll be able to find out anything that you want on there. We'll be posting a lot, and hopefully you enjoy the content.
It's worth saying we will eventually be on YouTube. However, we'll take it one step at a time. We didn't want to.
It's a slow process journey.
So the way we did say on the intro as well, it's going to be like 3 podcasts a week. We're going to have guests on a Wednesday. And however, I work away during the week at the moment. That's only for the short term. We're going to have guests whenever I'm home, basically, when we can both get together. Eventually, in a few weeks' time, 4 or 5 weeks' time, I'll be home throughout the week, and then we can get going with the kind of schedule we did have. Yeah, the content schedule we did have, where it's like bullshit Fridays, and this is what this is going to be. This is what we're doing now. Today was introducing us.
Yeah.
Next week
we've done a good job of that.
Next week we might be talking about Area 51 and COVID. We don't know. We don't know where it's going to go. But yeah, and then we'll have some interesting guests thrown in there in the meantime. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Peace.